things that you wish that authors knew about marketing their book that you could kind of tell folks about now at this point?
That for any book, but especially a self or hybrid publisher, you as an author are your best salesperson. Because if you cannot get excited about selling your own book and talking about it, like nobody will, for sure.
Welcome to the Osumaré Learning Podcast, where genius is celebrated, joy is the catalyst, and we learn most deeply by teaching what lights us up. I'm Parchelle Osumaré, executive learning producer, curriculum designer, and former high school math teacher, and lover of all things wisdom.
And I'm Portia Michele Osumaré, client experience designer, business coach, joy strategist, and a lifelong learner of the sacred and the strategic. Together, we're excavating wisdom from our brightest and most brilliant friends and partners, gaining insight that transform how we learn and how we teach in today's world.
So join us as we offer insights, community wisdom, and unique perspectives on experiential learning. So welcome to the show. It's the Osumaré.
Hey.
Osumaré.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello and hello. Welcome to the Osumaré Learning Podcast. My name is Portia Michele Osumaré.
I am Parchelle Osumaré, and we're glad that you're here.
We are so glad to see you yet again, as always. We are always so excited to actually get to put our thoughts down in these podcasts. And we're grateful you came to spend some time with us and kind of get into how we are doing as we get ready for this conversation. This is going to be a good one. Parchelle and I are in a plot and scheme always around this topic, but we can't even get too far into that. Before we get too far into those pieces, Parchelle, how are we doing for real? How you doing for real? How was your week?
I am still riding on just the joy and the excitement of saying I do and I love you to you, Portia Michele. We got married, y'all. We had our mini informal ceremony at the Red Rocks this past weekend. And so if you're listening to this whenever this comes out, just know that on this date we are still in our honeymoon phase.
Truly.
But I'm doing really, really well. That definitely has set me alive and alight in a lot of ways. And so this week, though, gosh, I know that it's just been lots of big emotional moments of just facing yourself, facing the things that you see ahead in life, but then seeing all the patterns and the conditioning and the things that also show up as you face those things, as you face forward. That's been good, but it's been teaching me how to learn how to play a little bit and how much more of that I need as a creative person. So I'm grateful also. Grateful. What about you?
Seeing you there. Look, I am here. At the time of this being recorded, we are 4 days out from this insane Scorpio moon, and with Saturn moving into Aries for the astrological girlies, I am in my Slytherin era. It's giving full villain. I done sat with all my feelings. I've been bawling for days, just scraping my face on the thing called life. But, I'll be honest, I really agree with what you said, Parchelle. There's this interesting juxtaposition of, us getting married and, us really we did some work, y'all, in really crafting the types of experiences that we wanted to have. We didn't want a bachelorette party. We didn't want a wedding shower. We had a naming ceremony in LA with our spiritual family in March. And then we had a signing ceremony at the Red Rocks in the desert with our Vegas family here in May. And those things meant a lot. And it just really also just kind of reminded me of the ability to really write our own ticket. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can do the things that really light your soul on fire rather than just kind of phoning it in. And this Scorpio full moon and all the places I scraped my face this week, they were all really around the places where I was kind of phoning it in. Kind of joyful, but not the seat of my full pleasure and joy, or kind of settling and not really going for some of the big things. And so it's been a big and emotional week, I think, of high highs and low lows, but that's kind of the business work behind the work that you gotta always do. I'm always telling us that if you don't do your soul work, your soul will come work you. And particularly, it will use the thing you're spending the most time in, which is often your business, to show you yourself, to kind of show you that piece. And I think this was definitely a week of that. For sure. Learned a lot. Happy it's over. Grateful the weekend is coming.
Truly. Well, it is Friday. This is such what day is this astrologically?
This is
Jupiter?
Venus's day. It's
Venus's
my
day.
day. It's a day for the Venusy bitches of us all.
I love it. Well, we are actually getting into a very interesting topic today, which is around book marketing. And I know that for those who listen, you probably are thinking about writing a book, or you maybe have one out already. I'm excited for today's conversation with Stephanie Moon. But before we get to that, Portia, anything you want to announce, let people know about?
Well, one thing I have to say about Stephanie before we even start, y'all, I want you to listen in if you are a person like me who is like, I will never write a book because of the work. Or if you're a person who's like, I'm going to write a book and that's going to be the last thing that I ever do, lean in extra. Because the conversation that Stephanie and I had before we had this podcast were like, everyone needs to know this. Like, there's so much about the book writing process that's so gatekept. This podcast is going to unlock some of those things for you, hopefully, if we do our job right. So one, listen in if that is you. And if you know someone, share this podcast with them because they absolutely need to know about that. I would say the only other announcements that I always want to give is to reach out and listen out for our business cousins community. We are always, always, always looking for the opportunity to gather our people around us. If you are somebody who's out to do real good in the world and you want to be around other people who are going to actually do that same good in the world with you and they kind of want to enjoy themselves while they do it, come find out about Business Cousins. We're having a great time together in community, actually, really being there and holding ourselves through this thing called running a business in this life, in this 2025 era. If you are interested more about Business Cousins, find us in the links in the show notes, and we would absolutely love to tell you more about being in our little community and family. But that's really it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Portia.
Thanks.
So let's segue into introducing our guest that is with us today. We've already kind of talked about a little bit about what to get into, what we're going to be getting into. But essentially, Portia, do we want to open up with like fun get to know you questions and then I read Stephanie's bio, or the other way around? It's kind of fun.
Okay. I mean, we can take it a different. Why not? We get to choose, right? We get to run our own tickets.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, so Stephanie, as you were here, before we tell the people why they extra should be listening to you, because you're a fabulous, wonderful person, we have these little rapid fire get to know you questions that allow us to get to know the person behind the brand. Now, first three should be pretty easy to answer. Last two may make you think a little, but our only request is that you say the first thing that comes to mind when we ask these questions.
Okay. I'm ready.
Amazing. Okay, first question. What's your favorite kind of nature and why?
Beach, because you get the water, the sand, you can look for shells and rocks.
Great answer. Great answer. I also agree. Okay, what is your go-to coffee shop order?
I'm really plain and really old school. I just like, if it's like a fancy one, I'll do a pour over, plain, just plain black coffee, like no sugar, no cream. And then if I'm feeling like a treat, I'll do maybe a latte with like one pump of flavor, not a lot. So we drink like very dark, strong coffee here.
And it tells me a lot about you that we like a pour over. It's a very classy lady, right?
Yes.
That likes quality over
Yes.
the fluff and can actually taste the coffee in the beverage. As a former barista, it tells me a lot about you. This is I almost respect you more. I don't know if that's a thing. That's the answer so far, Stephanie. Not gonna lie.
I love it. Love it.
Okay, turning up the heat a little bit, but not too much. What's a movie that you love but everybody else hates?
Interesting. I don't know if people hate it, but I'll say my comfort watch is Crazy Rich Asians. Because it's like, since Joy Luck Club, which came out like when I was very little, that's Crazy Rich Asians, right, is the next movie that has a ton of or all Asian characters, right? And I love that. It's just a comfort watch. I've read all the books. It's so like eye candy, all the fashion, everything. The story is very sweet, so.
Person that hates Crazy Rich Asians, to be honest. It's such a beautiful movie to watch, and it's so funny that you said that. Joy Luck Club is one of my comfort watches, because I've been watching it since a little kid, so I watch it over and over and over again, and I read the book, so that's funny. Did you know the guy who did Crazy Rich Asians also did Wicked?
Yes, I did know
it's
that.
like equally as visually captivating. Like, it makes me happy to watch those movies.
I have not seen Wicked yet. Maybe
Gotta
we
do
can get it tonight on whatever app it's on.
There we
Because my
go.
son does want to see it. Yeah. Okay. Good Friday
This is
night.
Family Friday date night movie, family date. It's so good. Things
Okay.
to also note: all of the music that you're hearing was recorded live. If that means something to you.
I mean, it does. I used to play piano, so just, it's
Awesome.
tough to do live stuff.
Very, very good. Very, very good movie. Okay, last two questions. Next, turning it up slightly. You're at a drive-through. You know you're not supposed to be at this drive-through. What drive-through are you at, and what food are you ordering?
Also, I grew up in San Francisco. San Francisco city proper does not have drive-throughs because there's not enough space. And also in the Bay Area, like where I live, I also still live in San Francisco. There's just not a lot of drive-throughs, like because there's not a lot of room. And so there's tons of like chains that I've actually never had. Like I've never had like a Sonic. I've never had a Dairy Queen. I've never had, what's coming here that I have never had yet is Raising Cane's. There's,
Okay.
there's not a lot here, but I would say what I do really like is In and Out,
very
which is
good one.
delicious. And I would get probably, this is also a different thing. So instead of a lettuce, some people instead of a bun get like a lettuce wrap. I always think it's only okay. So somebody told me that you can get it with a tomato bun. And so it's like two giant sections of tomato instead of a bun. And it's so good.
That a lot. I also love their like Flying Dutchman where it's the onion bun instead of the lettuce. Very, very good. Super messy, but very good.
I've never had, is it a raw onion bun?
It's grilled. Like
Oh,
two
okay.
grilled onions.
I'm going to try that next time.
It's delicious. Super messy, but so good.
Okay.
Ooh, you're getting good at this, Stephanie. I like these questions. Okay, last one. That really, to me, I feel like will tell you who you are as a human. You're walking into Costco. What's
Okay.
the first thing that you're buying? Like, I will not leave the store without this in my cart almost every time.
Lately, it's eggs because there's an egg shortage, right? That one for sure. Kombucha. Gotta have probiotics. And what else do you get a lot of? Salmon. I mean, those feel very like boring, but we're always there. It's like, what do we need on the Costco list? Eggs, salmon, kombucha.
Love. And you may say boring. I say functional and classic.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
what I would say. Somebody who knows what they want and somebody who gets it on a regular basis. That's a 10, Stephanie.
Yes.
I do feel like this is the behind the behind. Thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit more with our rapid fire questions.
Yes, I
Parchelle,
love it.
give us the background of Stephanie before we get into this good conversation. Tell us who we're talking to. Tell the people.
I love it. So I'm so excited to welcome a true powerhouse in the book marketing industry, Stephanie Moon. With over 15 years of experience, Stephanie has been the driving force behind numerous New York Times bestsellers, working with some of the most prestigious names in publishing, including Chronicle Books, Harper Collins, Scholastic, and Hardie Grant. What makes Stephanie particularly special is her dedication to empowering authors. She doesn't just market books, she teaches authors how to take control of their own success. And through her experience in book marketing, platform building, and reader engagement, she's helping both first-time authors and seasoned writers navigate the complex world of book marketing. Her approach combines years of industry insight with practical, actionable strategies that authors can implement to achieve their publishing goals. Excited to learn from you today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much for being here. And y'all, again, I have to give you the background also on what I love so much about Stephanie is Parchelle was not playing when they said practical application.
Yeah.
Of a practical girly, somebody that's actually going to give us a return on investment. And Stephanie is absolutely that girl. Again, so happy to have you here to be like talking about this conversation.
Thank you. I'm so excited. We've had many conversations now, and they're so fun because I think you guys get it, right? You get what it takes to market your book, but then also that a lot of authors like don't get it, right? They don't know what's ahead of them.
Absolutely. And to give frame to this conversation, all of us are people who support business professionals in a variety of capacities. And writing a book is oftentimes, for a lot of people, that hallmark of what's going to happen in their business, the hallmark of their culmination of their body of work, or it is the thing that, finally gets them to be able to speak about their expertise. Or it ends up being the thing that people spend their whole life wanting to do. We've got our writers that have spent their whole life wanting to build their series of books, and even some of our chefs. I know Stephanie and I were talking about books and things of that nature. There's such labors of love that may take years to kind of culminate into this thing. And then we all know that there's an interesting reality that's like, once you get the thing, doesn't actually mean that it may provide everything that in our mind as humans, that we think a book actually means, unless we kind of take some strategy. So much of our work is to make sure that our people get what they need, and we care so much about our people. And I know Stephanie is also in that same boat. But Stephanie, before we get too far into kind of talking about the world of authorship and the world of book marketing, tell us a little bit about how you got into this work in the first place. Like what was the pathways that led you into these conversations?
Yeah, so thank you for that nice intro. So I started, I was always a kid that loved to read. Read under the covers with a flashlight, reading in the car, reading at breakfast, reading everywhere, right? So books were a huge part of my life growing up. And then when I graduated from college and was looking for a job, being from the Bay Area, people were like, oh, do you want to work in tech? And that was dating myself. Google was very new. I was like, I don't even understand. How am I gonna be a marketing person in Google? What am I even doing, right? This product felt so intangible. And so I was like, I want to work with something that I can touch and feel and that people can see, right? And that I was lucky enough to get a job at a publisher. And I just felt so lucky, and I had stayed in publishing, since then. And when I worked at these publishers, I've worked with hundreds of authors, and because of the timelines of how publishers work, and then when authors, start working with their marketing department at the publisher, I would work with these authors who had spent years on their book, and they didn't know that they had to market their book. And then once they figured that out, they didn't know what to do that meant marketing, and then they were also doing it too late. They were saying, 2 months before their book comes out, okay, Stephanie, so okay, I see. I should have an email list. Should I start that now? And I'm like, no, your book is coming out. 2 months is like 1 minute in email marketing time, right? You got to do so much stuff to get it really up and running. And so, because I was also at the publisher, there was this very fine line that a marketing person has to walk, because your job as the marketer is to market the book. But a lot of times what the author needs is they need help marketing themselves and then subsequently their book, which for them is one and the same. But as a marketer at the publisher, it is not the same. Right. And so sometimes I would be I would talk to my manager and be like, hey, what about this? And they're like, well, that seems like an activity that the author should do, period. They should do it themselves. You could we don't have the energy and resources, right, to help them. And then I would be like, oh, okay, I see how that's definitely more brand and author focus, but it will help their book sales. It became really a question of resources, right? There would be many times where I was working on 20 books a season. And so depending on the house, some publishers have 2 seasons a year and some people have 3 seasons a year. So it's a lot of books that people are working on.
Okay, a couple of things before we even dive deeper into this. So loud to me about what you said. It's I think about the psyche of an author, right? Mm-hmm. That's coming to this big publishing house because they have the media machine, not realizing that if they haven't marketed themselves, the media machine is going to really struggle to market them.
Exactly. So you get it, right? So it's a lot of times authors will say to me Stephanie, this all sounds great. Can I hire you to do this for me? Can I hire you to do my marketing? And I'm like, you don't have enough money for that. Unless you're independently wealthy, it is so much work over such a long period of time that it would just cost so much. And also, if you want to be an author and write more than one book, sell a lot of books, right? And also build a business around it, or fill your current business, or do whatever it is besides just your book, you need to understand how to market, right? It's not like a one and done, like you had said. It's marketing, the way I describe it, is lots of tiny things done frequently, not one giant thing, right? And then also, you mentioned your wedding, congratulations. I also use the analogy, marketing is like meal planning, not like planning for a wedding. So a lot of times authors are racing towards their on sale date or their on sale week, right? Which is cool and great, and you should, make a big deal about it, right? Because it is your book's birthday. But they just spend all their energy, all their effort, all their money on this one short period of time. And then after that, they're like, okay, I'm burnt out, I'm done, I don't have anything else to say, I don't want to do it anymore, right? But to be successful, you can't think about marketing that way. Instead, you have to think about it every single week, you meal plan. When you first start, you kind of suck at it. You don't really understand what's going to work for you, your life, your diet, your family, etc. But then you start doing it. Then you get a little better. You're like, oh, okay, my kids really love to eat carrots. I'm going to cut carrots and put them in the refrigerator. I really like to eat salmon. I'm going to buy salmon and make a whole fillet on Sunday, whatever it is. And then you slowly get better over time, but it's not immediate. And also, it's okay if you fall off for like a week. You know what? You went on vacation. You were really busy. Fine. That week you weren't that great at it. But the next week is a new week, is a fresh week. You can pick back up, right? And so it's like that idea of like constant, right? It's like a constant thing you're doing. And when you do it, you actually feel so much better, right? So when you meal plan, more healthy meals, more vegetables, save money, whatever. And then when you market a little bit every week, you're like, oh, okay, I connected with this reader. I was on a podcast, I, connected with a retailer, whatever it is. But that builds also over time, which is what, marketing is also about, building momentum for yourself.
Oh, that's a very, very good point. And I think I've never actually heard it put that way. Marketing really is building momentum for yourself. And it is something, like you said, that like so much of us need to master as a skill set, regardless of what business we have. If you're in the business of your book, if you're in the business of your business, whatever that looks like, it is something that we need to do. And I never thought about the fact that we think in launch mode, right? It's like finite moments of marketing throughout the year. Actually, it's marketing all year long, and you may have a kick up in certain times, but that same amount of long-term, really relationship building kind of has to be done. In that way, it's like marketing is long-term relationship building with the audience of people who will buy what you're selling.
Exactly.
It's necessary. I love that. Okay. Well, obviously now the people can now see why we love you so much, because you are a wealth of information. So that you've gathered a bunch of this information working for publishers and with publishers in that space. What ended up having you make the transition to doing it, on your own in smaller capacities, like for authors directly? And where did because there's such a PR flavor to the marketing that you bring that's very different than traditional social media marketers, or even people who've talked to me about book marketing in the past. They don't have that PR insight that I know you bring to that.
Yeah. So I actually took a few years off. I had my son, and then I was lucky enough to be able to stay home with him. But finally, at one point, I was like, I'm ready to go back to work. I need I need something for myself. And I actually did try to do marketing for a variety of different other businesses. And it was just not for me. It was not my jam. I was like, oh, this is not fun at all. And this is not interesting. So I went back to books. And so that's how I did that. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Well, so tell me how you got your background around the PR piece.
So a lot of marketing and publicity departments are one department. And so I've been lucky enough to do both roles, and they're very similar but different, but authors always get them confused. And I think also as kind of media is evolving, so is publicity, right? Because I think for me, what I think, I think there will always be a place for like traditional PR. So broadcast, newspaper, online, like media outlets and stuff, and podcasts. But there's also this place that's like a gray area, I guess, of like partnerships and collaborations. Because I think that is a lot of where you can borrow somebody's audience, and that's like just as good as a traditional media hit, right? If you've found the right partner. And so I think, you mentioned like building relationships, right? That's what I'm always talking about with like people. I'm like, with authors, I'm like, okay, you need to build these relationships with your readers, with people around your industry, with retailers, with, just anybody, because you don't know who people know. And also, I think people want to inherently help other people, but sometimes you really just need to tell them, like, or ask them very clearly. Can you review my book on Amazon? Can you pre-order my book? Can you come to my event, right? And so there's also this thing that I work on with a lot with authors is like when you're publishing a book, you got to get comfortable like asking people to do stuff for you, because you are going to be asking the whole like journey, right? Can you be a beta reader? Can I interview you? What do you think of this cover? Come to my thing, order this, do this. Can you, there's all of these questions, right? And you do need that help because you can't publish in a silo. And so the way to make that easier for yourself is to like have relationships with people that you feel like you can call on them, right? And I also call that like putting money in the value bank, right? Like and so how you put money in is you do stuff for them before. Like it feels very transactional, like the way I'm talking about it, but I think it is also community building. So for instance, I say, a lot of authors I work with are very uncomfortable being more visible on social media. So I say, act like you would like somebody in your own community to act. So if you want somebody to hold up your book and leave a review on Barnes and Noble or whatever, you do those things first for somebody else, right? Because authors will remember who promoted their book, who left a review, who shared a link, all of this stuff, right? And so if you do that first, 1, it gets you used to being visible online. 2, it shows people also what you're interested in. And then 3, you're putting like money in your value bank. So when you need to ask for something, people are ready and willing to do that work for you or help you.
This is such good nuggets. Y'all, I hope you're paying attention because Stephanie is dropping beyond gems, which is, again, why we bring people on this podcast that are actually going to be able to grow you. I hope you're listening in and I hope you're hearing this for yourself. I also feel like so much of what you just said, Stephanie, is kind of like what's available for business folks outside of the algorithms of social media also, right? It's like if you're in deep collaboration with people, and it doesn't feel transactional to me, it feels reciprocal to me. A lot of us are used to taking. We're not necessarily used to showing up to give as much as we take, but we know exactly what it feels like when you're around somebody who takes more than they give, and who wants to be that? So I think that there's this way that we can people better that then makes book marketing easier. I'm hearing the same in what you're saying.
Exactly. It's it's exactly that. It's very reciprocal. And you notice who is very generous in the space, right? Like I'm thinking really about like the kids lit space, right? So kids book people are like the nicest, kindest, like most generous like people, right? The librarians, the teachers, the authors, the illustrators, right? But you'll also see like some really, really love to share other people's books. And then you'll also see like when their book comes out, tons of people are sharing about it. But there's other people who are like, oh, why should I share about somebody else's? Well, they're like in competition with me. And I'm like, it's not really in competition with you for like so many reasons, it's just not, and they don't get that, right? So it's also the authors that really get that spirit of like generosity, right? Spirit of reciprocity. Then it's like, you'll just like be able to receive that later.
Totally agree. And I mean, I'm a big person that's like collaboration over competition. In what universe is there competition? We look right behind where Stephanie is sitting. I don't see one book on a shelf. I see many. And people who like to read typically like to read things that they like, and they love to find out other people that are publishing things that they may also like to read. I think that like there's this piece that we've been taught, I think, just in business in general, that there's somehow a scarcity and there's not enough for everybody. But when it comes to this work, I'm hearing you say even that generosity is key, reciprocity is huge, and your community building and your ability to be able to keep marketing things on rotation actually is contingent on your ability to be able to community build and people well enough that when you ask people to do things, they want to do things for you.
Yes.
I love this. And again, why Stephanie's brilliant. But let's kind of turn the table a little bit of what we're talking about here. This feels like the things, like I can totally see why you do this for clients one-on-one now, because there's time and energy from what you said before of like to actually take this time to sit with an author and have these types of conversations, involve them in some of these pieces. But it kind of feels like with traditional publishers, that time isn't there. So tell me a little bit about kind of like what you wish that people knew more about the traditional publishing route versus hiring somebody to actually help you walk through these things one-on-one.
The Osumaré Learning Podcast is brought to you by two sponsors that are near and dear to our hearts, because we built them. First up, Business Cousins. Business Cousins is a collective of called to serve leaders who are building businesses that create impact that actually matters. We're about doing real good in the world, giving people the results they paid for, and having a damn good time doing it. If you're into running a business that you actually love, hanging out with smart and soulful folks while you do it, and being supported every step of the way, this may be the room for you. We host gatherings, workshops, and offer ongoing business development support that's as human as it is helpful. If you're interested, apply today at thebusinesscousin.com. Check us out at www.thebusinesscousin.com. And then there's the Author's Leverage. That's our studio for turning your body of work into powerful learning tools. Whether it's digital workbooks, private podcasts, or binge-worthy education content that helps you scale your impact without burning out, we specialize in transforming complex ideas into accessible, engaging learning experiences that your audience will actually use and implement. Our team of expert creators, instructional designers, and production specialists ensure that your wisdom reaches more people in the ways that truly resonate. If you're an expert, author, thought leader, sitting on brilliance, let us help you package it. Learn more at theauthorsleverage.com. That is theauthorsleverage.com.
So I think when you go with a traditional publisher, their marketing department is working. They're just doing very different things that you should do than you would do as an author. So the publisher's marketing department is selling to accounts. They're basically making like a B2B sale. They're helping facilitate that. They're helping sell to Barnes & Noble, sell to your independent bookstore, sell to Crate and Barrel, sell to wherever, right? A store. You as an author are trying to sell to a person. You are trying to sell to Portia. You are trying to sell to Parchelle, right? Because you want that person to go into a store or go online and put the book in their cart and buy it, right? That's what you are working on as an author. And it's publishers are slowly doing more consumer marketing, but it's very hard for them because the publisher is probably publishing tons of different kinds of books. So even though their socials and platforms are probably bigger than you as an individual author, you don't know what the mix of that background is and what those people are interested in. We're interested in business books, religious books, cookbooks, kids books, whatever it is. But you as an author have built your audience on whatever your book is about. So you know that everybody in your audience wants to buy your book or should want to buy your book.
And it sounds to me like you kind of have to inform a big publisher of how your audience buys and what other things they may like. It sounds to me also like there's a bit of the author's responsibility to know enough about the audience and the work that they're actually putting out to inform the publisher so that these bigger publishing houses actually can market better on your behalf.
Yes. And I think what you hit on right there is that the best authors are the ones who know their audience super deeply and super well. They'll know, for instance, if it's a kid's book author and they've written in tons of different genres and write nonfiction, etc. I'm thinking about somebody specifically. She knows that actually a lot of her audience are librarians, teachers, and educators. So she knows, for instance, if she says, I'm going to have a classroom guide, that people will actually use it, right? Because she knows her audience super well. So it's that knowing your audience that also takes a bunch of time, right? And so, for instance, I'm working with an author right now, just started working with her. And she wanted her book to come out in like 3 weeks after we started working together, which is fine, except for she didn't have an audience. And she's like, do you think it's too early to be working together? I was like, no, we should have been working together like 2 years ago. Like, who are you going to sell this to? Where are they? What do they do? What are they like? How are they going to know about your book? How are they going to know about you and trust you and know you're an expert in this topic? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's why we need to work together.
That makes a ton of sense. And in that same vein of you all working together, we talked a lot about kind of people who go the more traditional route, but we know that that's like 1% to 2% of the authors and how they get published, right? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about more like the hybrid or self-publishing route.
Yeah.
For that lane, like what are some of the things that you wish that authors knew about marketing their book that you could kind of tell folks about now at this point?
That for any book, but especially a self or hybrid publisher, you as an author are your best salesperson. Because if you cannot get excited about selling your own book and talking about it, like nobody will, for sure. And also, the way you talk about your book is the way other people are going to talk about your book. So I've definitely talked to authors who, do not really have an elevator pitch down. They can't concisely talk about their book in like a sentence or two. And I'm like, okay, like, that's okay. We can work on it. But you need to be able to say this because otherwise people are not going to know what your book is about. No one is going to take the time to like Google you, then Google your name, then Google your book title. It's just too much work, right? People need to basically be told. And so those two things, right? And I also think, especially if you're self-publishing, like you're in charge of sales. Like in self-publishing, you're in charge of everything, but especially you're in charge of sales and marketing. So if you're not selling your book, like literally nobody else is. Because if you're at a traditional house, right, they do have a sales team. They do have a marketing team, right? And so part of selling is, again, knowing who your audience is and like where they are. Why do they need to read your book of the other 1 million plus that are published a year?
And I think that you really nailed something also there, Stephanie, in the sense of like, you want to go in, what I'm hearing you say is like, you want to go into the book writing process thinking 5-10 years down the road, not 5 months down the line.
Yes. Yes.
Like you really want to go into this process thinking through, what do I want this book to provide for me, my audience, my impact, and my business? And then how do I stack the deck so that I'm ready before my writing process, during my writing process, but then after my writing process? Because I think it's also this interesting myth that like, it's like, I kind of feel like writing a book is like writing a book is like birthing a baby in the sense of like, you're like, do all this work to get the baby here. And then it's a human you have to take care of.
Yes. Yes. You can't just, once the book is out, like the next month, you can't just like not talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got to be something that you continue to kind of be in a relationship with and also think through the longevity of. Parchelle, I'd love to hear your opinion here in this because I know so many authors come and sit with you once they've put the book out and they're usually like, I put it out a year ago, I sold some copies, but what's next? It's kind of like, how do you encourage people to think about what other ways they can leverage their book that then also kind of markets the book?
Absolutely. To me, and what I usually advise people do is put on the lens of learning. Look at your body of work, look at what you're doing in a way that of asking yourself, how can people experience my book in a new way? And that oftentimes it opens up an entire playground of opportunities to create resources, to create, an experience, to gather people around your topic. And by virtue of you promoting those things, talking about those things, making very interesting offers around experiences, for sure, in and of itself, is going to be promoting your book. It's going to be promoting your message and your body of work as an extension. So oftentimes for me, and where I like to play in, is really finding the learning experiences that can be leveraged to do that work of continue to keep the conversation going about your book instead of it just being a afterthought or something that you're only thinking 5 months down the line. Like you said, let's look 5 years. What is the learning landscape available connected to your body of work?
Again, go ahead, Stephanie.
I love that because it's also, for a lot of business people when they write books, you know, I think for some, it's like this check mark they want to have. Like, I have a business, I wrote a book, right? But what they don't realize is that it's basically like a very expensive calling card or a very cheap introduction to you and your work, right? So either one time I talked to a real estate like lawyer or something, I had like a question, I got on like a call with him. Then at the end of this call, this guy's like, can I have your address? I want to send you something. And I was like, okay, right? He's like 10 days later, I got a hardcover copy of his book, a letter, and some other like additional materials about like the thing that we were talking about, right? And I was like, wow, this guy's legit. Like, I like, used it and I was like, okay, amazing, right? And so that's like an introductory to him, also creating credibility around him and his work, right? And I think the other thing is for like, maybe people who are in the more online space or doing like another type of service, it's also an intro to you because it's hard for people to get like a full picture of like who you are and what you're into and what you're about online sometimes, right? Or maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they don't want to do that work, right? But they could just read your book and then they can see, does this resonate with me? Because if it resonates with me, I want to work with this person or I want to follow them. I want to see what they're doing. And if it doesn't, then okay, fine. You just kind of like read this book that was maybe not for you. So that's how I think business people should think about their book. It's not that the book is going to be like $1 million moneymaker, right? Because it's probably not, because I mean, the book is like $25, $35, if that, right?
It's like, do you know how many of those you'd have to sell to hit $1 million?
yeah, you're gonna sell a lot of books to make like $1 million, right? But it can help you make $1 million because you've introduced 10,000 people to your framework, to your services, to your whatever it is, right?
And we know books, book stages, books, warm leads, books.
Yes.
Also establish credibility. Books also allow you to be able to be opened up into industries that you wouldn't have been able to walk into elsewhere because you have the leverage of this piece. And like you said, it is a beautiful calling card, but
Yes.
also like can also be a culmination of years of expertise that instantly allow you to be able to put the price 2 steps up.
Yeah.
Instantly. Yeah. But what's interesting about this, I think that's so important to make sure that we know for people who are listening for this, if you don't have a plan for how that book is going to do that, it's going to do nothing but sit on a shelf and be $20. If you don't actually, like your real estate guy, think through, ooh, you know what? I'm actually going to send my book as a gift when I talk to people because I want them to slowly but surely start to get familiar with my methodology and my teaching. So when they sit in front of me, we're ready to actually go and we can do more work together because they know how I roll versus how the other people roll, right? Which I love, love, love also as a way to help differentiate yourself in the market. Really crowded market, you having some sort of book or asset that establishes the ethos behind what you do and actually tells people the why, the how, the movements that matter to you, rather than just you're the real estate guy, you're winning in so many worlds, right? So I love, love, love that for the business owners. But again, it comes back down to if you think about it as the book and that is it, then it really is under leveraging what this book can make possible for you in your business, in your impact, in your creativity expressed out in the world. I also feel like something that was so loud for me as you guys were talking is how important it is that y'all are resourced. This is why you hire a Stephanie and you hire a Parchelle and you come and have these people, because did y'all know this before you started? I know you didn't, because I didn't. Right? The average person you're an expert in your field. You may not be an expert in how to have the more nuanced, creative conversations about where your book can be best leveraged or how your body of work can show up in the world. But that's why you partner with business professionals, because they can come in and bring their expertise so that you're ready for that. So if you're sitting at home and you're like, I'm going to write this book, I'm getting ready to have these pieces, make sure you're budgeting for what's going to happen afterwards. Make sure you're thinking through how I'm going to get somebody like Stephanie on my calendar so that we can be actually asking some of these conversations. And so the last thing I will ask you, Stephanie, in this piece, as we're kind of like leaving the folks with something to think about, what are the things, particularly for business owners, because most of our clients are entrepreneurs, and most people who are listening to this podcast are business cousins that are out there. Our business cousins they have businesses, right? And they care about the work they do in the world. What are some of the things that you want to make sure that every business owner who's thinking about writing a book knows about the process of marketing it afterwards? And if you got any like little secrets that people normally don't say, like things you wish you knew about, like ways you can leverage.
So much. So, okay, your on sale date is your book baby's birthday. That's like the first day that your book is actually available. So somebody can see you, meet you somewhere, and then get your book, at a store or in the next couple of days. A lot of people talk about pre-orders, etc. But that's like a very hard concept for consumers to kind of get on board with. So that's one. Two, you have to just continue marketing your book because people won't know that you wrote a book unless you tell them. Even if your book is 6 months old, a year old, 2 years old, right? Hopefully your book is not like a trendy book and not relevant at that time, but it's like, you got to tell people, hey, I wrote a book about my framework to make doing your taxes easier or whatever it is, take better photos. And you got to tell people because I think that the book is probably pretty good, but you got to just tell people that it exists and that you wrote it and that you're there. And then I think one of the very interesting piece to kind of end on is if you look at the New York Times bestseller list, many times, so it's broken down into a bunch of different categories like fiction, nonfiction, kids, etc. But the list, how to advice miscellaneous, that's where a lot of books, cookbooks, self-help, etc. goes. And this list comes out every week, and I would say most of the year, what you will see on it are books that are old. Books that are not new. So perennial bestsellers are Atomic Habits. That's the one I keep thinking about, right? It's number one many weeks of the year because so many people are buying it or so many organizations are buying it for their employees. So many coaches are buying it for their workshops, etc. So if you look, there will be so many old books on there. And so what that's telling you is that people will buy an old book. It's not old to them because it never had it before. They didn't know it existed until you told them, which was yesterday, right? If they're new to your community. So I think that's just a testament to you can sell an old book.
That's so good. And again, it tells me that if you wrote a timeless body of work, it will continue to grow with you as your business grows. And it will continue to do the job of establishing your expertise again and again and again when you've long left this world. It's part of the reason I think why so many of us get excited about the book writing thing, because there's a legacy that can be left for your entire body of work and the movements that matter to you after you're dead and gone.
Yep.
I love Stephanie. Again, I could talk to you for hours, and I know that the people need to be sitting in front of you to talk to you for hours because I know that y'all don't know this stuff. This is what I know because you come sit in front of me and tell me, then I know that you don't know. So I be sending you to go sit in front of Stephanie. Yeah. So Stephanie, if the folks want to get in contact with you, how best can they get in contact with you? And if they know that they need your services, what are the options that we have open right now for working with Stephanie?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. So I have a website, stephmoonco.com. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And the best ways to work with me are my two, I work with people in many ways, but my two main ways are, one is called Checked Off. So it's a weekly marketing routine. Basically, it's accountability Monday and Friday, co-working on Tuesdays, and then every other week is office hours where you can come and ask me a question, right? Because so much of the advice out there is very generic, plus you don't know who they're talking to or why, and then you don't know what they're saying. It's not customized for you, right? So that's Checked Off. So that's my accountability program. And then I have Reframed, which is a 6-week sprint because I want to reframe how you think about marketing, right? I want you to get all the basics there and going so it makes sense, right? So many times authors are like, I don't know why I wrote this book. I don't know why what the reader is going to get. And then also on top of that, I'm in that I teach you, about the customer journey, right? Like how to create more visibility. Then once you do, what do you do with them? Where do they go, right? It's not that somebody sees you once on a, news show and then buys your book, right? There's usually like a long journey they have to take. And you got to be able to take them on that journey, right? You can't have like sporadic once a week I'm going to do one here, like all unrelated, right? That doesn't really work. You got to be a little bit more strategic. And so anyway, so that Reframed is a 6-week sprint. And so we go and create a really good plan for you. I also do one-on-one coaching, VIP weeks, etc. But those 2 programs are really good to kind of like jumpstart you.
I love, and y'all know, somebody who's in the experience design space, I love a well-designed experience. That is cute. That's real cute. Both of those programs are really cutely well designed. And, for those of you all who are listening and you're like, do I need accountability? Yeah. Because you know that when I leave you at home with your computer, you're not doing shit. 1, 2. You know that having the ability to be able to fall into a community of people that are also doing similar things helps us get over the line. I love that you added that bi-weekly with the office hour too.
Yeah.
That's delicious, Stephanie. Again, I love a well-designed program and development. That's a very good one to deliver. Thank you so, so much for being with us today and giving us extra time to kind of explore your brain. Y'all, get in with Stephanie. Find her in all the places. And hear this and be inspired that maybe, right, this book can be an open door that really allows you to be able to have your legacy express your expertise, really can grow with you, and make sure that you find some partners that actually can help you make that dream a reality. I'm so proud of you all already for doing the work. Stephanie, thank you so, so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Welcome. So good to see you. We'll see you next time, y'all. And thanks for listening to the Osumaré podcast.
See you next time.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and consider what was shared today. Thanks to our guests for sharing. Thank you to Parchelle for holding us in this container. And thank you for listening. We hope that something that was shared today sparks a new idea, inspires a new action, or creates something that you're excited to share with your community.
And thanks to Portia for leading this wonderful conversation and for bringing the vibe. Make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and hit us up on LinkedIn or Instagram. We want to hear what this sparks for you. So do us a favor, drop a review or leave a comment with what you thought.
All right, friends, we will see you next time on the Osumaré Learning Podcast. I'm already looking forward to it.
Me too.